So we've long since established then that sustainability, that's inextricably linked, isn't it, to smart towns. Some real life examples now, no pressure, of how sensors are being used to monitor, reduce valuable resources that we use. And that's in the company of Scott Andrews at my farthest end on the navy polo shirt. Scott is Conwy Council's senior IT analyst who's allowed departments there to look at new methods, I understand, to capture data and had lots of success in flood level monitoring. Good, I'm right so far. Sandra Rosser is next to me from Abergavenny Town Council. She's the principal officer there, and since leading the way with a water sensor project, other groups have been inspired, I believe, to address situations they have in their locality. And Damien Williams, his mind is buzzing, I can tell you, with ideas that he's about to be implementing at Blaenau Gwent Council. He's an IoT delivery officer. He's from a construction background, now pioneering cutting leisure centre costs, energy costs, for example, amongst other things. So I'll invite them all in their turn to say a few short words and maybe a few questions from yourselves as well. Sandra? Diolch.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. So, as just said, I'm Sandra Ross. I'm a principal officer for a town council, so quite interesting to say from a minor authority's point of view. And our digital journey started back in November 21 when we had a presentation from Councillor Clive Davis, who is with Cardigan and Ceredigion Council, who explained about their pilot project, and we've heard a bit about that today, where they'd implemented smart town technology, come up with a town app, and how that could be used in different ways depending on the needs and the location. That led to us having a presentation to the Town Council on smart technology from Owen Davis and his consultants, who had created a digital place plan through the Smart Town Cymru pilot initiative. And we at Abergavenny were asked if we would like to work with the regeneration team at Monmouthshire County Council to look at considerations of what we would like to use the technology for. So because we work quite closely with a lot of green community groups, which we've labelled as Abergavenny in Bloom, we thought we'd try and look at an environmental project that we could look at in the first instance. Before we made a decision on what that would look like, we actually went to visit Cardigan to see how they implemented the data on the ground, how the app worked, and what we could possibly use it for. Look at where they had things like the gateways and the sensors installed, and also see the live data being used in practice by the shops and businesses in the town. So for us, we knew that looking at the In Bloom initiative that we had, we were having quite a problem with our watering schedules for the town centre planters. We'd come through a very dry summer, and so we decided that one of the things we'd looked at was getting a standpipe so the contractor didn't have to do so many return journeys to keep filling a bowser. And with that, straight away, we saw that there was an immediate impact on reducing our carbon footprint by reducing the mileage, fuel consumption, and the time spent. We changed some of the styles of the planters. One already had a built-in reservoir system, and some of those were over 25 years old. So we took the decision to, first of all, replace those to see the difference it would make in plant health. And then the other style of planters weren't quite so good at retaining the water that we were putting into them. So we decided that that would be where we'd make use of the soil moisture sensors that you can get. We were then introduced to Scott and Sensibility to be able to look at what those needs might be. And we decided to do an assessment of the town centre. At that point then, we only had one gateway fitted into the town, so we had to do a couple of different things. First of all was to map how far that gateway would reach, and also how many sensors we could feasibly collect that data from. And then from that, we were able to talk to Scott and his team, see if it'll do it. Hey. Yes, there's a team. So these are the sensors actually being installed. So there were concerns, as with everything, when you're fitting these things. Do we tell people where we're putting them? Are people going to be that interested that they're going to come along and take them away? But I'm very glad to report they're all in situ. And we've now managed to put this live onto our website for everyone to use. And it details where the planters are situated that we've installed the sensors. And you can see the soil moisture levels, the soil temperature, and also when there's been a watering event, i.e. the contractor comes in and actually puts the water in. One of the things from this, and we didn't really know where this data would take us, part of the In Bloom initiative was how we could try and make things more sustainable. That's what our goal is. And straight away from the data, we could see within an hour of a watering event, there were some planters where the water was gone. So we knew we had a serious problem. And we were able to then actively monitor and see what the problem was. And it led us to another project, which means that there'll be a replacement of more planters, but looking at how we can keep those healthy by building them in with reservoirs to keep them healthy for longer. We were able to do this with relatively low investment. We put a figure on it of around £1,000 to invest in equipment at a town council level so that we could get enough sensors to trial this as a project. And we have 6 moisture sensors that are live, and also one that's now going to go into a water butt that will be fitted in the town centre, and that will show the level of water in that and how we can use that to specifically look after a set of planters within the town centre area. Now, unbeknown to us, when we entered Britain in Bloom last year, we were considered for a Sustainable Gardening Award because of these initiatives and because of the data that we're producing. And we were really quite surprised and very thrilled that we won that award last year. So it's been really incredible for the volunteers to be able to start using this data and take that journey forward. One of our big things that we would like to do is, now that we have this data live for anyone to access on our website, is to take this to the next step. How the schools can use it. They all have eco schools and gardening clubs, which we're encouraging. It's our dream to have a weather station somewhere in the town to try and link that data up. We heard rumours that there's something called a tree sap monitor, so we can monitor the growth in the trees in the area as well. We're quite lucky that we've quite diverse plant species in the town, and we just want to try and help things that have been traditionally on the agenda with climate change and how plant health is changing with the changing climate, but how we can help people use smart tech to do that in a sustainable way. I think I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thanks for clicking onto the next slide as well, because I was unsure which was next, Conwy or not, but it's over to you, Damien, if you'd take the stage. Thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. So, as you can see from the slide there, Ebbvale Leisure Centre is the project I'm going to talk about a little bit. I think Gary Howells mentioned earlier a really important point. That was, we can collect data, we can put sensors here, there and everywhere, we can collect buckets loads of data, but really what is more efficient, what's better to do is look what the problems are first and then use data collection to try and solve those, rather than collect a pile of data and then think, right, what can we use this data for? What can we solve with this? So this project came about, trial, just from conversations within different departments. It was mentioned by the leisure department, the rise in energy costs. I think we've all suffered from that over the last couple of years, and as you can see from there, they anticipated the energy costs going from about 440,000 to 1.4 million, which is just incredible. We had a number of sensors there which we thought, well, maybe we can help with this. This is the problem. The sensors we can put in for a trial. Maybe we can do something with that. So we installed 4 mile site environment sensors. There's a picture of the little sensor there on the right hand side. We installed one in the gymnasium, one in the swimming pool, one in the swimming pool viewing balcony area, and one in the sports hall. The sensors themselves measure temperature, CO2, humidity, light, a few other things. And what we do, we just put them in, we let them run. The idea was trial it out for a month, collect the data, then we'll all sit down, we'll have a meeting, we'll analyse what the data says and see if we can make any changes. So once we'd run those, we were quite surprised once we met up a month or so later that the air conditioning in the gymnasium, the graph, So this is a picture of the dashboard that we're generating. You can see at the top you've got a swimming pool, gymnasium, pool balcony. So you can go for, we've kept it very simple, specifically because we want the leisure centre themselves to look at it. So we can put tons and tons of data on their graphs everywhere, but we really want it simple so they can use it, it's usable for them. And then when we dig into the data, we can produce things like temperature graphs, heat cycles. And what we noticed on the gymnasium, it was virtually a flat line. So when we sort of dug into that a little bit, it turned out they just put the air conditioner on 24/7. It was just 24/7. So we kind of thought, well, the gymnasium shut down during the middle of the night. The leisure centre is well insulated. Why don't we try turning the air conditioner off between the hours of 10 o'clock and 5 o'clock? Turn the air conditioning off. We'll keep the sensors running. We'll run it for a month. Review the data again, just like we've done, and see what happens. So that's exactly what we did. We ran the data, came back, reviewed it in a month's time, and basically there was no change. So what that told us was it was basically unnecessary to be running the air conditioning. So we've saved 7 hours of air conditioning running through the night. With the insulation of the building, the temperature remains virtually constant. So we're able to now quantify that. We're working on that at the minute. We're yet to receive the exact specification of the air conditioning. But we can sort of estimate from the 7 hours a night saving, we're talking in the region of 130 to 170 kilowatt hours we're saving. So not insignificant at all when multiplied 24/7, 365 days a year. And I think what also helps is once they've seen that, once they're able to see that we can make changes based on the data, all of a sudden that's opened up the floor to the leisure centre management. They've seen what we can do. We've seen it's actionable, and all of a sudden now they're thinking, can we put PV film on the windows? Can we do this? Can we do that? There's been several other additional benefits with the sensors. You'll see from the you've got a carbon dioxide sensor there. So at certain hours, the gymnasium gets very busy. That'll turn red. It means you need to ventilate it more. You need to open some windows. You need to introduce some ventilation. We've got a light sensor down at the corner. Another benefit we didn't even think about was quite often the sports hall gets the lights left on, which is not a great problem in our houses, but in a sports hall with 30, 40 massive lights, it can be a problem, and nobody was noticing. But now, somebody can just click on it, can see it, turn it off, it's done. So it's opened up a whole raft of other changes. Subsequent to this, we've also put in a water temperature sensor in the swimming pool. So we know from the building management system what temperature the water's heated to when it's going into the swimming pool. What we don't know is what the water temperature is when it's recycled. So that recycled water has to get filtered, reheated and put back in. So we put a sensor in there, monitored it. There was quite a drop-off of temperature, so that instigated the leisure centre to replace the pool covers. So that's another change that we hadn't really thought about. So very positive, very tangible benefits we're getting from it, and I think that's the key, really, that people can see that we're making changes, people can quantify the amount of energy we're saving, and that opens doors to other projects. So now obviously we've done it in Evervale Leisure Centre. The plan now is to expand that out. We'll go to Abbotsbury Leisure Centre, we'll go to Tregear Leisure Centre, and there's no reason why we can't do other council buildings now we've proved that this technology works. So thank you for your time. That's my presentation. Thank you.
And you wait until he tells you about the fly tipping plans he's got, but we'll get to that shortly. Croeso.
Unfortunately, I need some props. Right, I know it's a bit confusing, but yeah, I work for Conway Council 9 till 5, Monday to Friday, and Sensibility is the professional side hustle to allow me to start shopping at Waitrose instead of Aldi. Right. Oh, wrong way. I'm having the same problem as everyone else. Which way are you meant to do this? There we go. That's me. So I work on the innovation and integration side of things in Conway Council. And we developed this water level sensor. And that's because we originally had some funding to just try some ideas out. And we had an ultrasound sensor where we were using that. We put it underneath some bridges and things. And we're just starting to get some erratic results where we're like, well, that doesn't make sense. And we realised it was starting to be the actual environment, the actual real heavy rain that North Wales is famous for was causing issues, or even erratics like leaves and things would cause issues. So we realised we need to protect the area that the sensor actually works in. We're brainstorming session, and that's where we came up with GB. And so it's helped facilitate because it's been on a demo run around some schools as well. It's met the floor with some force, unfortunately. And that's where we've also met his friend, Little Floater. And what happens is the float goes up and down inside the tube, and then the sensor just detects it, sends out by radio, and then we then pick up centrally. Now, this entire setup costs about £200 for that, and that can just be deployed anywhere. You can attach it to Gabion walls, to the side of a culvert, and you can gather all those statistics on those various kind of water levels that are going on. But remember which way to do it. Right, so we can see there, you can see one actively deployed there next to a culvert. It's the town of Llanrwst, which famously floods between October and March, that's it. And you can see we've got a number of sensors around the town. We've even got some further up in the hills as well, where the streams that feed down into the main River Conway. So we've got some good, well, you can see them there, you've just got some levels. Now, the main reason why we're interested in this is because... Oh, man. There we go. It's the cost savings. So this, as I say, costs about £200 altogether with everything, but then with the installation costs, it ends up being about £350. We're already in Conway. We're using our own dashboard platform. We're using open source software, Grafana. We're storing the data on our Microsoft SQL databases using corporate licensing that's already being incurred. So we're not incurring ongoing charges, ongoing revenue charges in that way. So you can see there that comparatively for 20 sensors, if we deploy these, it's £8,000. But if it was to be done with a traditional telemetry sensor, it'd be an order of like £66,000. It's just an enormous sum of money. That's because with these, like I said, you can just put them to the side of a Gabion wall or a culvert, and that's just a person in wellies with a yellow van and a drill. Whilst on the traditional telemetry sensors, quite often they require heavy construction, concrete, the sluices and the runs all to be done properly. All we're doing here is measuring height. And what we're doing is that we're presenting the data differently as well, where externally we are just showing it as a level. The water is 55 centimetres high, the water is 60 centimetres high, and that's it. It's up to the resident to determine what the risk is to them. However, internally within the council, we are able to, with the colleagues in our environments department, they've worked out which areas are likely to be like the thresholds that they can say are going to be the problems. We don't want to present that out to the public because of the fear of litigation. We don't want to, because then if you put a percentage on it, you're then in an advisory role. So we don't want to say that, we're just saying, this is the water level. That's it, really. Thank you very much.
Okay, I know there was one audience member specifically interested in hearing from Abergavenny Council. Is there a question that you'd like to ask?
Not really. I was surprised that it was for planters, actually, but that's one of the main things that our council does. Not one of the main things, but it's a significant thing, so I'll take that back to our council. But this day has given me the opportunity to network with people, I would say, and maybe I can start the process in getting written as a smart town, so thank you.
Well, that sounds like a win to me. Diolch yn fawr iawn for that feedback, thank you. Os yna gwestiwn pellach I unrhyw un o tri, any of the three, you might ask a question to.
Hi, this is a question for Abergavenny. I noticed Abergavenny recently had use of High Street Safari. Was that something the Town Council did?
Yes.
And how did you find it?
We looked at that for an initiative to bring more people into the town over the Christmas period. We'd seen how the augmented reality was working out at a local attraction at Raglan Castle, and they were implementing it quite successfully. For the cost of having that through the town and promoting it, we were able to do more with regards to that than if we'd spent out on having, say, to give you real-time comparative costs. The year before, we'd spent £2,000 on having a sit-on light-up reindeer in the town, which was very well documented and all over the social media sites, but unfortunately got really seriously vandalised, so ended up costing us quite a lot more. The augmented reality trail was just over £500, and you could have that across 10 different locations throughout the town centre. And so all of us now, because of COVID, very used to QR codes and enacting that, and then this was encouraging all generations to kind of participate and go to areas of the town that they might not traditionally go to across that Christmas period. And the feedback we had from the businesses was really positive, so we're hoping to do it again this year.
Diolch. Anything further? I have alluded to, I've given a big up to your next ideas, Damien. Are they ones that you're ready to share, for example, with regards to fly tipping, or are they top secret still?
No, absolutely. First of all, just going back to the Les Centre, that was done initially as a trial, so we used four sensors. Obviously, that's a relatively simple project that can be sort of taken up and copied elsewhere, copied to different Les Centres. You can put more sensors in, you can expand it. But I'd just like to think for a minute, imagine the possibilities if, for example, our Les Centre, you created a digital twin. And then on that digital twin, using the information you were getting and the information from the building management system, just imagine if you let AI loose on that. You can create amazing efficiency savings. And that's, produce a report, and then you can try your changes. So, the possibilities on things, even from something small, like 4 sensors as a trial, can suddenly blossom. You mentioned the fly tipping. It's a problem, I think, in a lot of areas. And we've been looking at that, what we can feasibly do, and some ideas, and thinking outside the box. And somebody came up with the idea, well, if we can detect cars and we can detect noise, and we know roughly what areas people are going to fly tip, can we then use a sensor to activate something else rather than just the sensor? So somebody drives up in a van, starts fly tipping, the sensor notices that. Can that then communicate with a drone? Can the drone go up and take a photo of the car, the van? Things like this. So when you do a project, it's not just the project. It opens the door to all this other follow-on ideas. I think that's absolutely fascinating, and something, just going back to the original project, that's something anyone can do, anyone can set up. It's relatively simple, it's relatively cost effective. The sensors that we used came to less than £1,000. So one little tiny project like that can blossom into all different other things. So the future is just whatever you can imagine it to be. It's, and we can all do it. We can all do it.
Thank you. That's inspirational. And Scott, I know you've got a stall there so people can still call and see you maybe, but I thought it was interesting what you said about how you share the data. Victoria earlier mentioned about not sharing all data immediately until people are ready to do so, but you mentioned it's important how you share the data, in that it doesn't come with instructions, you leave it open to interpretation.
Yes, yeah, that's the decision that the flood manager has decided to take, and to be honest, I don't disagree with him. So the data's still open. They could still download it and bring it into a spreadsheet to analyse it to the nth degree. They can do all of that. We're just not placing a threshold on it. We're not saying it's at danger level. We're not saying it's 80% full, because it becomes interpretive, and then the public budgets are under constraint as it is. You don't want to be doing big payouts. If you live next to a stream and you know, ooh, it's 83 centimetres, I know once it reaches 85 centimetres, we're in trouble, then you know that. You know that yourself. You don't want to start, but you know that in your heart of hearts. You're not being advised by someone. With our tube, because we developed it in Conway Council's time, which is public sector, we shared that design with lots of other people, because that's the right thing to do. It's not to say it's infallible. You know, we find that when it gets really cold, like -8, the crystals form inside, ice crystals form inside, and it can't do an accurate reading. But normally that's not flood. It doesn't flood when it's -8. It floods when it's 5 degrees, 6 degrees. So it's kind of balanced out, really. But yeah, we've definitely shared that design because we did with the public sector.
We'll thank that latest panel. Diolch yn fawr iawn i chi. And we've got one more to share with you before the end of the afternoon.